as important as it is to clear the toxins or mitigate the toxins that are coming from the outside, nothing will ever be greater or more toxic to you than the toxic things that live within you. If there's one silver lining to the disaster that happened over the last few years, is it awakened a lot of people to the reality that you can and need to take care of this body. And unfortunately, there are people in the industry who are running around saying, oh, peptides are so safe. Your
Mm-hmm.
body recognizes them. They're
Yeah.
fragments of proteins naturally occurring in the body. Therefore, what could possibly go wrong? Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing. Things can go sideways even with things that are natural to the body. Sometimes you meet someone, you come across someone who's really, really ill, really struggling, and yet somehow they manage to be super grateful.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining. Today, I have the immense pleasure to have Nathalie Niddam. She's from Canada as well, where I was before.
Mhm.
And this recording has been meant to be done for years and years until finally we've said, let's do it. Now we need to do it. Nathalie, thank you for joining. I'm so glad to have you on this show today. You are, of course, the host of the Longevity Podcast. You are a speaker. You're a speaker on longevity, and you're a longevity educator, among so many other things that you do. I'm so glad that we're going to spend some time together talking about everything.
Thank you so much, Jean. It is such a pleasure to be here. We finally, we were like two ships passing in the wind for the longest time. And finally we connected. I don't even remember what event it was at. And once we started talking, there was no stopping.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
So I'm honored to be here, and I'm excited to host you on my show as well in the next little while. So
Absolutely. And I look forward to it as well. But today you are on my show, so I want to hear everything about you and not about me. When it's going to be my time, we're going to talk about me. So tell me, you've been in the longevity space for a long time, and longevity, actually, you've been in the biohacking space for a long time. And now I see you in the longevity space. Is there any difference between biohacking and longevity?
Yeah, I mean, there can be, at the end of the day, like I started in the biohacking space in the sense that that's what was relevant when I first got into this, when I formally entered into the space as a contributor instead of a consumer, as it were. But I think what's happened over the last, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years that I've been here is both direction. I think both the market and, interestingly, my own focus has shifted, right? So I think that when we look at biohacking, we look at the mechanisms, we look at mechanics of how to get healthier, how to lower this, how to raise that, how to be better at this, how to get our brains working better, all the things. When we're talking about longevity and health span, because that's really what we're talking about these days, because, if you think about it, conventional science has more or less solved for longevity. They're keeping people, we're keeping people alive a really long time.
Yeah.
The problem is that they're not always in great shape by the time they hit the finish line.
Especially the last 10 years. Yeah.
Exactly. And that not being vital, that loss of vitality can happen quite a long time before you pass away. You're just kind of kept alive. And I think that because of my stage of life, I'm a fair bit older than a lot of the people in this space. You start to look at yourself, you start to look at your runway, you look around you, and you start to look at what's really important here, right? What is it that we're really after? And I think that as you kind of step back, you start to get a broader view of context and what's important. And I'm sure that this is happening with you as well in your show. Is what I'm finding as, the biohacking stuff is great, but what's the context and what's the underpinning, right? How do we lay the foundation for all the fancy stuff? And the interesting thing is that very often that foundation is not the sexiest stuff, but there's no way around it. There's no way around doing certain fundamental things properly, so that it's like you can't optimize a body that's sick,
Right.
You can't,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to get to a state of homeostasis
Yeah.
before you can really, before you can
You improve
optimize.
or you upgrade.
Yeah.
Natalie, you know what? This is the problem. Like in America, people think that you fix a problem with a pill, and people, when they were looking at biohacking, the perception they had is like, even if I'm obese, in a bad shape, I don't sleep and whatsoever, biohacking is going to take me there,
Yeah.
which is absolutely not true.
No.
Yeah,
100%. And they get that impression, I think, sometimes even from people in the space.
correct,
Right? You have
correct.
people in this space who walk around kind of talking about, oh, yeah, I take like 75 supplements,
I do 20-minute
150 pills a
workout.
day. I do a 10-minute workout and I'm going to hack this and hack that and hack this. And, even I kind of had to learn this lesson a little bit. Yeah, there's shortcuts to workouts. Of course, you want to be efficient in your workouts. But at the end of the day, you got to get your heart rate up. You got to stress the muscles for the muscles to build.
In a
You've
for a
got
certain
to
time
do,
too. Yeah,
like you've got to do the work, or the
that's it.
body physiologically. And it's funny, like it all comes back to the most foundational principles of nature.
Hmm.
And there's a piece of that that you cannot hack or circumvent.
Right, right. Yeah, 100%. And this is why I've been in this biohacking industry for over 20 years now, and I've been one of these guys that was thinking that you can hack everything and you can optimize everything, fall into addiction because you get addicted to what you're doing, and you go counterproductive of what you're trying to do. Few years ago, 2 years ago, I said, like, I'm gonna get away from that, and I'm gonna move away from biohacking. I want a new name, life spanning. This is all about what you said,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the
I
the
love it.
basics. Yeah, the basics.
Yeah.
Like, we have been created that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I want to take you back on what you said when we started talking. So you said we are doing a great job by making people live a decent amount of time. Let me ask you this question. We are designed to live up to 120, up to 130. We're
120.
only, yeah,
120. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
120, yeah. And, but we live up to 80 in America,
Mm-hmm.
approx. So are you sure we're doing a good job, or we're not doing a good
Oh no,
job?
listen, we're not doing a great job. We're doing I mean, we've lifespan has increased dramatically over the last, let's say, century, right? I do think we're starting to hit a point in the curve where things might start to boomerang back if we're not careful, right? I think that, and Professor Cavinson, who we'll talk about later when, if we have time to get into things like bioregulators, he talks about how there's a biological reserve of about 40% in every organism. And that reserve is the difference between 80 and 120. And what he talks about is to tap into that biological reserve. It's almost like, how can I put this? It's almost like you have to do regular maintenance and upgrades and renovations in an old house for that old house to keep going well past its, predicted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything decays over time, right?
Unfortunately,
Everything.
this is, yeah, we
From the
don't
minute,
control time. Yeah.
right? And so, but I think what happens with humans, and even with, like, let's say our pets or whatever the case may be, the world that we live in, and it's interesting. I'm going to say one thing and then I'm going to contradict myself in a minute. So hang on a second.
I love that.
The world we live in is becoming more toxic and becoming much more challenging to our systems. And so our ability to live to that point, that 80-year-old point, and even beyond it, well, is going to be predicated on our ability to mitigate all those assaults.
The toxics
right?
from the environment. Yeah.
So now you might say to me, well, okay, Nat, but go back a couple of 100 years and all those toxins from the environment weren't around, and people weren't living to 120 then.
Yeah.
What gives? Well, here's the thing. We needed to make progress to a point to make it so that we would get to 80 in good shape, because we have modern medicine, which, as much as we love to slag it in our space, There's value in modern medicine.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? We can't get around that. We can't get around the fact that learning to deal with infections and traumatic injuries and that kind of stuff is a big part of living a longer, healthier life. Like,
Yeah,
it just is.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's almost like I feel like we've taken ourselves to the point where we've hit that point in life that medicine could kind of get us to. But now we've got to pull back a little bit. We've got to reclaim our power. We have to reclaim control. And we have to say, you know what? You're great if I get hit by a bus. You're fantastic if I happen to, get an infection that needs to be treated with antibiotics, because there is a place for antibiotics in life. But I need to not use these as my crutches. I need to use those as something in my toolkit, but I'm now going to do the work that helps my body to rise above all this, the EMFs and the pollution and the toxins and the crazy processed
and the microplastics and all these things. Yeah.
All those things. And for that, we need, mechanistically, we need access to there's going to be supplements, there's going to be technology, there's going to be all these different biohacking tools, if you want to call them that are going to help us there. But the thing that I think that a lot of us are missing is the intangible, right? And because we're moving away from it, because we're so caught up in our lives and in modern life and in, material things and what can I do and what can I take and what can I buy? The piece that I think we're starting to now come back to, that we've kind of forgotten, is looking inside.
Nature. Yeah. Looking at modern nature. I want to take you on this thing. So you brought two perspectives on this topic. Let me bring another perspective that we often ignore, but is really underrated. What do we do with Darwinism, the evolution of the species and our ability to adapt to the environment? I agree that microplastics, toxins, and everything are more present today than they were 100 years ago. 100 years ago, we used to live less. We live a bit longer because of medicine and things like that. However, taking one topic, microplastic, there is a big boom on microplastic everywhere in your balls, from your head, your brain, and everything. No one today has proven the toxicity of microplastics. They can be completely inert in our body because our body has the capacity to adapt. Yeah. So we are neglecting that part. And that, if I shift the referential of our discussion there, maybe we're going to adapt to all those toxins.
I could not agree with you more. The problem is, I think it's going to take time.
Of course. It's not one generation.
Yeah. It's going to take more than a single generation. So I think, I don't think you're wrong about that. And I do believe, I've spoken to other people who believe that we might even eventually adapt to EMFs, right? We may adapt to, and the body will evolve. I mean, look, the strongest of the species will evolve and adapt to the stressors that it's facing to overcome it, right? Even maybe even to some degree pollution, whatever the case may be. But in the meantime, we need to figure out, for us, the first ones, we want to figure out the way, how can we mitigate, how can we help our body to cope, right? And we all, in this space, we all talk about our bucket, right? You're born with a bucket, and that bucket, when at the day that you're born, is already filled with whatever your genetic predispositions are. It's going to be filled with the stresses and all of the stuff that's passed down from the mom into the baby, including microplastics, by the way, in utero. And so your bucket is filled to a certain degree when you're born. And then as you live your life, you kind of, unfortunately, we keep adding to the bucket, right? Whether it's eating horrible foods or drinking too much alcohol or living a crazy lifestyle, all the things. And we tend to, what we talk about is, we talk about the bucket overflows when it's like one thing too many, and the body's like, you know what, I can't cope. And for everybody, that point is at a different stage. So our job is to understand what are the things that I can control. What are the things that are within the realm of what I'm able to control so that I can mitigate those things, number one. And this is where people have to take back that power. People have to take back ownership of their health journey in this life,
That's a
right?
big struggle for many. They don't know where to start.
100%. And I think that, I've been thinking a little bit about this before we came on, because you were kind enough to give me a heads up on the conversation. But I think that, and going back to the beginning of the conversation, biohacking, of course, is a piece of the puzzle. But going back to nature is actually before you go to biohacking, right? Being able to reconnect your body to whatever natural elements are available to you, like seeing the sun first thing in the morning when it comes up, right? Watching the sunset. Like, I mean, quite apart from being exposed to the red bands of blah, blah, blah of light, like what a gift to give to yourself every day if you're able to pause at the time when the sun, within an hour of the sun coming up and within an hour of the sun going down, if you can just take a break and take a step outside and look outside, look at the sky, and allow your system to
Best
calm down for
biohacking.
2 minutes, right?
Yeah, the best biohacking ever. But tell me, Nathalie, it's beautiful what you said, but when do you
Yeah, no,
step
listen,
down
it's a
and take two
challenge
minutes? Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
challenge for every one of us.
We
And
need to, yeah, we need to
yeah,
force ourselves, huh?
and we really have to prioritize it. But I would say that, the next piece, and this is the one, and that's hard enough to do, but it's not hard, right? It's at the end of the day, it's put it in your calendar, figure it out, do it most days. You might not do it every day.
Build an habit, yeah.
Try to bring it into your life, at least as a practice. And I would say that people who live in beautiful sunny climates will have an easier time than people like me who live in a northern climate where I don't really want to go outside when it's minus 10
Yeah, that's
degrees
why I
out.
left.
But I need to build up that resilience, right? Because that is part of my environment. And Lord knows that with my heritage, none of my people ever had to deal with this crap.
True, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, but the other piece that has, and it's funny, last week was an event that I've been talking about this for a long time. I've been beating around the bush. I've interviewed people about it for the last couple of years. When certain guests come across my thing, I instantly say yes, because I think it's a piece of the puzzle that we all forget. And we either forget or we're like, oh, I can't deal with that. I'm just going to take another supplement. I'm just going to do that, right?
Yeah.
And that is, what is the work that you need to do within to come into balance with yourself? And this speaks to spiritual work. It speaks to inner child work. It speaks to your mindset. It speaks to, as important as it is to clear the toxins or mitigate the toxins that are coming from the outside, nothing will ever be greater or more toxic to you than the toxic things that live within you.
The thoughts, you mean?
Thoughts,
Conscience?
traumas, experience. I mean, look, if you look at what's that study that True Diagnostic uses? Not the Grim Age, the other one, where they follow the young kids.
Oh,
It speaks to ACEs. It speaks to early childhood adverse events, right? And in this study, it's an ongoing study. They started studying these people when they were small children, and noticed that the people who had adverse early childhood events, so these are traumas that they weren't able to overcome, it actually accelerates their aging, right? Now, everybody who has an adverse childhood event doesn't necessarily have accelerated aging. I mean, I used to live next door to a woman who lived through the Holocaust and was 97 years old. I mean, she had an early childhood adverse event by any standard. And yet she was able to be resilient enough, and she was able to somehow in her life come to a place of, whether it's acceptance or forgiveness or whatever strategy she used, so that it didn't really, we have the expression, eat away at you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Those things that are inside us that we've, and we're, as you said, we're really adaptable creatures. right? So we can be really good at taking something like that, wrapping it up or taping it up with a bunch of duct tape or whatever it takes, stuffing it in a corner and saying, no time for you. I'm done with that. I'm just going to move on. The problem is that it's always there,
Yeah.
right?
But we need guidance.
And we need guidance. And so I do believe that one of the big pieces of the puzzle that will do us the most good in many ways is to, if for those of us who haven't been able to cope with it and deal with it, and Lord knows people walk around with really big things, that we have to find the supports, and we have to find the resources and connect with those resources to do and give ourselves the time and space to do that work.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be technologically speaking, or it's more a mental work
I think it
to be?
depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think it depends on the person, right? I think that some people will be able to, I think for the most part, everybody's going to need some guidance,
Mm-hmm. That's the
right? Because
problem. Yeah.
it's hard, right? It's
Yeah.
hard to go look at this stuff, to be objective, to release it, to get past it. Like, I just did this full week-long program at a place called BioCybernaut, called it's neurofeedback, but it's alpha brain training, and it's all based on
Nice.
forgiveness.
Wow. It's
And
better than a ayahuasca then.
it's different than
Yeah.
ayahuasca, because what it is, ayahuasca is great. It's a weekend. Maybe you can fast track some stuff, but there's something about sitting for 7 days for many hours a day in
Wow.
a dark room, listening to your brain waves as you are going through a process of identifying past traumas, identifying, how did that make you feel for
Wow.
real, then stepping into the other person's shoes, what might have made them do what they did, and then going through a process of forgiveness where you're listening to your brain waves to see, are you forgiving them at a deep level in the subconscious? Are you able to affect that subconscious programming that's really running the show?
Wow.
Right? So it's the kind of work that I don't think there's shortcuts.
No, 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 that works. There is no shortcut. You can put whatever headset on your head and try to align your brain waves. It's going to be temporary.
Yeah. And I
I
think
believe.
that
Yeah.
technology can be helpful to me continuing the work,
Right.
right?
Probably. Yeah.
So, and I've got my eye on a couple of different devices that I think might be helpful, but nothing's going to be able to do the work for me.
No, and it's, even devices, the problem of most of the devices is they're using one type of technology. Some are using transcranial direct stimulation, other light and sound, other vibration, other EEG or whatsoever. Uh, but our brain is our most complex, well, it's actually the most complex
Yeah.
stuff that exists out there on this planet and the universe, most probably. So it's that's the perspective of, it's going to be a hard job for technology to be able to even keep going on the whole side and aspect of brain, um, how can we say that, reconciliation or uh,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think that what the role the technology can play, and I do believe this right now. I mean, maybe though something new will come along and show me that I'm wrong, but what I believe right now, what and the role the technology played for me last week, it's not that the technology made my brain do anything it didn't want to
No,
do.
was
The
reading it, huh?
technology gave me information about how
Hmm.
successful I was being at changing patterns and beliefs,
Yeah.
right? And so, and it's, what it's like? It's like an Aura ring, but
Yeah,
for your brain.
for your brain. Well, let's jump into the topics.
Yeah.
My point and what I think about trackers. I've been like tracking every single data of my body for so many years, and now I'm trying to get away from and
Yeah.
stay away from all these things because of the addiction that they create on people. And for me, addiction is a sign of oxidative stress and inflammation, and it goes against the principle of living longer.
Hmm.
Um, so with moderation, I love trackers, but
Yeah.
I hate them at the same time.
Yeah. Well, it's again, it's about putting them in their right place
Mhm.
and and using them properly. So I know you probably have had the same experience. Like, I've lost track of the number of times that I've had a client who they went out and bought whatever, right? Whatever tracker they
Yeah.
bought, and comes back 2 weeks later and is like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. I got the worst score last night, and now I can't sleep anymore because I wasn't sleeping well, and it's keeping me up at night. And you're like, okay, stop.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
job
Not for
one,
you.
take the ring off your finger or the
Yeah.
thing off your wrist, put it away,
Yeah.
and let's bring context to the conversation, please.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is not a judgment you're getting every morning. It's not a grade. It's not a score. It's feedback.
It's feedback.
It's information.
Yeah. And the problem we're going to have, that is in the future, we're going to be tracked on so many aspects of our life, our biology, and our physiological state. I assume that in less than 5 years, we're going to have like small vessels into our bloodstream that takes measurement of our organs and feedback on an app and say and prevent, like, there is those toilet that measure. Take measurement from you. Yeah, have you seen those things?
I haven't seen that yet. I saw the toilet that washes your bum and blow dries you, but I haven't seen that one.
Well, there is another step before washing and drying.
Right. Okay. Before you wash and dry, we're going to take a look at what's coming out of you.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So we're going to be tracked on so many aspects because of technology, because of AI, and because AI is going to be able to predict if, like, one marker is changing or one gene expression is triggered. That way, you have to prevent what is going to happen. So it's, where do we position ourselves in terms of human, and mainly back to what you were saying, how do we make our mental health in balance with this future?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's a great question. I really do. And I do think that some people will do better with it than others. I mean, that's the truth. But I also think that the more we can provide people with the tools and the information, like, it's just like in business.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a boss, if you're smart, you never come to your boss with a problem that you don't have an answer to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to find yourself out the door pretty fast, right? And I think it's going to be really important for the people who are driving this agenda, right? Who are providing people with all this great information, not to provide information that we don't have an answer for, or at least some indication of what to do. And, it's interesting. I recently did a test, and it's a great test. And it looks at the metabolome in great detail, and it looks at 12 different areas and all these things. But there's a part of this test that gives you predictive scores for like 1,000 different diseases, that you didn't know existed, and then really scary ones that exist. And you forget about everything else. All you do is you go to this one thing and you go, holy shit, I have 100% alignment with people who have this thing I've never even heard of. I don't even know what it is, but it must be really bad.
Yeah.
And, they had to remove that section.
Oh.
Because I said to them, and it wasn't just me, there were physicians that said the same thing to them. I'm like, don't tell people they have a horrible problem if there's nothing they can do about it. Because first of all, I don't believe that any test is 100% right? Okay. It's like genomics, right? You have all these people running around with their genetic test going, oh my God, I'm an undermethylator. I have all these crazy problems. I'm anxious, and I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, slow down. Take a breath, right? Number one, of all the people that show up as undermethylators or overmethylators or whatever methylators they are on a test, they clinically don't present that way, right? Why? Because the body has backup systems upon backup systems upon backup systems, and it has all this resilience already built into it that we don't even know about yet, right? We're just starting to figure it out. So we have to take a breath, right? All this testing is really great. All that information we're going to get is really great. But the next thing we have to do is check in with ourselves, check in with what is versus what's going to be, or whatever the case may be, use the information, right? I mean, if it's telling you you're heading for type 2 diabetes, which frankly we can already do, now's the time, right? Check your sleep, check your diet, check your check your exercise, check all the things that you can do to mitigate that. And guess what? You can pull yourself back from that cliff really easily.
Yeah,
But
try to master your trajectory.
Yeah, like try to, and this is the good news, right? We can, in many ways, in most instances, by changing our lifestyle and our behavior at a foundational level, we can have a solid impact on where we're going. And then sometimes we're going to need to take it a little further, right? And let's avail ourselves of the technology. Let's throw on a continuous glucose monitor for a few weeks to get insight about how our body is responding to different foods or to different stressors or whatever the case may be. So let's dip in and out of the technology that is increasingly available. Like, we live in such a cool time.
Yeah, it is cool because we have access to all these things. It's just like, what do we do with them? And I think it falls down to one simple principle: education. Again. And this is what you do: education. You educate people to understand that. But I jump back again. Most people would love to be there, but they don't know how to start, where to start, what to do. And why is that? It's because they're not educated enough to know what's the step to take.
Somehow we've not been, somehow many people were never taught that their actions will have consequences, and even in a good way, right? True. As children, many children are not taught the lesson, maybe because the parents aren't aware themselves. The children don't. We have to begin from the time little people are little, right? From that very beginning, we don't want to teach a child, no, you're not allowed to have that. We want to teach a child, this is what's really going to make you feel good, right? Yeah. We want to speak their language. We want to empower them and teach them that this body that they were given is a beautiful gift, and it's an incredible machine. And I mean, look, there'll be years when they're teenagers where they'll abuse it and they'll do stupid things, but
it's part
they'll
of
come
the
back
process.
to it, right? I mean, they will come back. If you've instilled those basics in them when they were little, they'll come back to it. And for the adults out there, I think for the ones who are interested, and I think increasingly people are starting to clue in, if there's one silver lining to the disaster that happened over the last few years, is it awakened a lot of people to the reality that you can and need to take care of this body.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, your mind and your soul and all those other things that we talked about. But, we know that chronic stress is one of the biggest assaults to your immune function.
Yeah, and we've been educating our generation. Actually, have been taught to deal with stress and to be stressed, because performance, jobs, and work 80 hours a week because it's important to sleep when you die.
Yeah, which means you're going to die pretty soon. But yeah,
that's the thing. Yeah, and I this is the positive thing of what the time we live in today is. Like, I see the beauty of the world changing slowly and surely, and I've seen the evolution from the biohacking movement and the longevity space and all the healthspan, lifespan space going into the right direction. And why the longevity space is booming, it's because, as you said, like, people are starting to understand that your health is the most valuable assets that you have. I love it. It's awesome. Let's jump quickly, if you don't mind. You are the specialist for me on peptides. Do you mind talking about peptides in general? At first I wanted to talk about specific peptide, but you know what, I would prefer to talk about general peptides and the approach. Most of them have been, because of the FDA, have been difficult to get. And so how do you see the peptide in the longevity space at large? It's a large and wide question, but you're a specialist, so you can dig into any topics you want.
That's a great question, and it's always evolving, right? The FDA actually this year rescinded some of the bans that they'd put on certain peptides, so they've kind of stepped back.
Mm-hmm.
And so peptides like thymosin alpha 1 are back on the table. I think CJC 1295,
Yeah.
ipamorelin. So those, the last two, CJC, for people who don't know, CJC 1295 and ipamorelin are growth hormone secretagogues. And what they do is they trigger or they signal the brain to make more of your own growth hormone, right? And so we won't get into too much detail now, but that is a good thing because it's not like injecting synthetic growth hormone
Mm-hmm.
from the outside in. It's getting your body to make more of something that in the right amount, because too much of growth hormone is very much a sweetheart hormone. Too much is no good, too little is no good. You want to hit the sweet spot. So we know that for healthy aging and building lean muscle and for cognitive benefits as we age, if we can stimulate or upregulate the production of more growth hormone, it's a good thing. Now, there's other ways to do it other than peptides, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can go step in a sauna, you can
Yeah, and cold
exercise, you
plunge.
can
Yeah.
sleep well, you can do lots of other things. But
Right.
those peptides can be clinically really useful when they're used properly by the right people. Then we've got peptides like BPC 157, body protective compound 157. Now that one is still off the table as an injectable
Oh, is
peptide.
it? Yeah.
I
Okay, I didn't
think
know
so. I
that.
don't
Okay.
think I
Yeah.
don't think they rescinded on that one. I could be wrong though. But what's interesting about BPC is it's orally bioavailable.
Mm-hmm.
So the cool thing about humans, we adapt and we figure out a solution to the problem. So you've got all these people running around right now looking for ways to introduce these peptides that don't involve an injection. So for example, some peptides can be taken orally. Another one is I'm involved with a company right now that has a serum that you can apply in your hand that can get almost anything across the skin barrier.
Wow.
Yeah, not too many people know
That
about it. I've
that is
just
super interesting.
we just released it a little while ago, so it's now we have to be cautious because we don't want to encourage people to use products that they shouldn't be using.
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, this is a really powerful strategy that can be used with things like PRP or exosomes. Like we haven't even talked about that stuff, right? But
Mm-hmm.
going back to peptides, I think that one thing I find with peptides are really powerful signaling molecules, and at the right time, in the right place, in the right situation, they can really do people a lot of good. But the challenge with peptides is our nature is to find the silver bullet. Our nature is to look for the easy solution. And one thing that I keep telling people over and over again is that even peptides, as powerful as they are, if you haven't done the work, if you don't understand what you're trying to achieve and how you're trying and what are the pathways that are involved, or even why are you experiencing what you're experiencing, you can't just throw a peptide at it.
Like semaglutide. Yeah.
Or well, exactly, like semaglutide or tirzepatide. So these are the fat loss peptides
Mm-hmm.
that get, on the one hand, they're on a pedestal because holy
Yeah.
jumping, they
Yeah. Yeah.
solve
Miracle.
crazy problems.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, are getting, because of our nature, they're getting used and abused. And every once in a while, you come across people that are really suffering from the side effects of something that has just been used improperly.
Yeah. But they remain still safe in general. I would say like CGC and
And ipamorelin?
ipamorelin. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
those products BPC 157. What could be the backslash that you can get
it
from these type
happens.
if you take the right dosage and
Not so
no?
fast. So for some people, there's a small subset of the population that BPC 157 makes them crazy.
Oh, is that right?
It makes them
Okay.
angry and depressed,
Wow.
and they lose sensation, like their feelings. Not a lot, but it
Interesting.
can happen. And so here's the problem: we have yet to figure out who those people are. So right,
Yeah.
so I can't sit with a client and say, ask them 5 questions, go, oh, you're not a candidate, because I don't know what the questions are yet. Nobody's
Yeah.
really, and everybody's so secretive, kind of running around behind the bushes trying to figure it out, that we don't fully have the answers yet. With CJC and ipamorelin, that you don't want to use them, let's say, if you have active cancer in the body. And I would say of all the peptides that are out there, those are the two that I see produce some of the worst histamine responses in people that have mast cell issues.
Oh,
Right.
that's
So,
interesting
so there's
point.
this, so there's this very common misconception. And unfortunately, there are people in the industry who are running around saying, oh, peptides are so safe. Your
Mm-hmm.
body recognizes them. They're
Yeah,
fragments of proteins naturally occurring in the body. Therefore, what could possibly go wrong? Well,
yeah.
here's the thing. Things can go sideways even with things that are natural to the body.
So, what do we need to do if we want to move into the peptide therapy
I
and
think we
starting
need to,
to?
you need to find a guide. You know, you
Okay,
need a practitioner or someone to, someone who's, and the good news is there's some fantastic functional medicine practitioners out there that are really well versed in peptides. I mean, you've got the International Peptide Society that's been educating doctors. You've got A4M that's been
for M,
educating
yes,
doctors.
yeah.
You've got who else? There's a new one. Dr. Melissa Peterson
Oh,
heads up,
yes, yeah,
right? Dr. Melissa
yeah,
Peterson. I can't remember the name of her
yeah,
organization. She's
yeah. It's true.
building like this unbelievable university. You've got Home Hope, the guys from Transcriptions, Home Hope org. They also have a beautiful training course for practitioners. So you've got all these people out there educating practitioners and physicians on how to use these products well. So I think as a consumer, you, what you don't want to be is the person who's
To
in
listen to the
one of my
gurus
groups who
on
says,
Instagram.
I just bought these 7 peptides. How do I don't know what to do with them. It's like, no, 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 don't do that,
Yeah.
please.
Well, it's
Right?
because you go on Instagram and you see so many gurus and influencers talking about peptides, and they like, I'm the specialist on peptides. I do this and this and that, and what you realize is like they don't know anything. They just like transcript what they've read somewhere, just a
Well,
part
they
of
don't
it.
know, you know what they really don't know, Jean? They don't know you,
Oh, good
right?
point.
And this is the thing that I think escapes a lot of people.
Yeah, good point.
Bioindividuality
Mm,
is that
love it.
thing that we can, it's another fundamental law of nature,
Mm,
is we're all a little bit different from each other, and we're the sum of all of the experiences we've had. We're a sum of all of the things that we've done. We're the product of where are we today. We know that, for example, for diet, right? The diet wars. No, it's keto, it's vegan, it's high carb,
oh,
it's low carb, it's
yeah,
this,
there's
it's that,
none
right?
of
There's
them.
no perfect diet
Nah,
for everybody.
yeah.
And the worst news, or best news, but the worst news is that the thing that is nourishing you and keeping you your healthiest today might not be the same in 10
Same,
years.
yeah, exactly. I see so many of the things that I used to eat when I was younger, and today it's just like the effect is completely different. I agree. We are all unique snowflakes. I keep saying this sentence because it is so true. What works for me doesn't work for anyone else, and or for someone else, and it's the rule of being on this beautiful planet and our existence
Mhm.
and Mother Nature. Let me jump into question for you.
Okay. Rapid fire questions. Here we go.
All right.
So sorry, I hope I answered your peptide question, but
Yes, of
okay, good.
course. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. It's very clear. The world of peptide is fascinating. And I think that in the future, we're going to see. Uh, I've seen very interesting news from our upcoming government about peptides and the FDA.
Mhm.
So
We'll
I'm
see.
curious. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But it's part of the future for sure. Nathalie, what sparked your passion for longevity and health span?
Well, I'm getting older.
I love it. Well,
I,
facing the truth.
well, I mean, there's that. And also, I mean, look, I've always been fascinated by the human body. I've
I love it.
always, like, I keep saying this on podcasts recently. People are going to think, oh God, she really is a nerd. Like, I used to read National Geographic magazine from cover to cover
Oh
when I
my
was a
God.
little kid. And I had this crazy collection. I was like a fire hazard in my room. And so science but all aspects of science, right? The human body, the animal kingdom, like nature, everything. I've always been super fascinated in it. And I think what happened was as I grew up, and I studied physiology in university, so I was really interested there. But then, looking around you and seeing the people that you love starting to develop chronic illnesses and starting to really fail, and then starting to understand, wait, it doesn't have to be this way. And that's really, kind of when the fire kind of got lit. And then I went back to school, and then I woke up one morning and I'm like, holy shit, I really better figure this out, because
it's coming.
I'm on the boat.
Well, but it started very early, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We've seen so many people jumping into the longevity space in the last decade, but not many are in this space with this conviction like you are for so many years. All right, can you explain how bioregulator peptides help to body rejuvenation and all the systems to work properly? You actually just did that pretty much.
Well, no, actually, you know what? So here's what's interesting. Bioregulator peptides are different than the BPCs and the CJCs and ipamorelin. So
what is the difference?
Very quickly, bioregulator peptides are a maximum of 4 amino acids long. Maybe there's one out there that somebody's saying is 7 amino acids long, but the fact of the matter is they are the tiniest proteins you can imagine. Their superpower is that they can get into the nucleus of the cell. And what they do is they bind to DNA, your DNA, and they upregulate the production of proteins from within the cell. And that is what drives the rejuvenation at a cellular level. Now, there's also another hypothesis out there that one of the things that bioregulators do is they help to repair the DNA. So one of the things that happens as we get older is that our DNA gets damaged. And so it's no longer able to do what, produce the proteins that we need it to produce to do all the things in the body. Well, imagine if you've got mechanisms that are possible, that are natural, that originate in our bodies, that we can now outsource either from animals or from labs, that can reintroduce these little tiny proteins into the body and just have them hone in on where they need to go and help those repair mechanisms to reignite. And this is where Professor Kevinson, who talked about this 40% biological reserve, where he was talking. So what you're doing, if you think about it, to give us an analogy, is imagine your tires on your car. When you first buy them, they've got the little fuzzy things on them and the tread's really deep and they're super sexy, right? And after you've driven a few 100,000 kilometers or miles or whatever on them, they're like bald. They're flat, looking pretty nasty. Yeah. So imagine if you can restore the tread on those tires without having to get a new tire. That's in a way, that's what the bioregulators help to do.
So to me, they are like the miracle molecules in a way or the other.
Sure. They're miracle, except guess what? Everything we talked about earlier has to be in place. Really
back to the basics. What's one actionable tip that you can give people to implement in their today life, like I would say the best biohack coming from you?
I hate that question. I can never. It's like forcing someone to pick their favorite child.
Don't do that. Just leave it like that.
You know what? I think that the most important thing we can do is to sit with yourself for a minute, because you know what? The biohack I picked for you might not be the right one, right? If I say get outside and get into nature, you're like, dude, I live on a farm.
What about sunrise?
I think sunrise is really important. Everybody talks about sunrise. Moving your body is important. Adopting a natural diet is important, but take stock of where you are. Right? Okay. Sit with yourself for 10 minutes and take stock of where your blind spots are. Is it on the nutrition side? Are you drinking too much alcohol? Are you not sleeping? Are you not exercising, moving, getting outside? Find that one thing that you can start with, and start with baby steps. And make your list and use it as a checklist. And you say, okay, I'm going to deal with my sleep first. Because if I don't sleep, my immune system goes to hell in a handbasket. I have carb cravings the next day. I can't think properly. I don't have the energy to exercise. I don't have the energy to make the right decisions. So maybe start with sleep. you can help your sleep by seeing the sunrise and the sunset. So we can fold that all together. And once you get to yourself to a place where your sleep is starting to kind of come back together, now we pick the next thing and the next thing and the
One
next
step
thing.
at a time.
One
Yeah,
step at a time.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
chunk it down, right?
yeah.
Just
I
like
love
that
it.
big project you have to do
Yeah.
at work. And I would say if you get overwhelmed, even with this advice, then join a community, find a
Oh,
coach, find
oh,
someone to help you, hang out with people who have the same goals as you do. Right?
beautiful.
If all of your friends think that living life is drinking a bottle of wine every night,
Leave them.
you're doomed,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because they're going to suck you right back in.
Yeah.
So you may have to go out and meet new people, or find a community, or hire a coach or someone who's going to help to support you and figure out what those steps are for you to get you to that next step.
Yeah. Apparently, we are the average of the 5 people that are surrounding us. So,
100%.
yeah, so that's it. What about technology? What's your, you think the next technology that will change the world?
I don't know that it's technology necessarily. Where I get really excited right now is everything that's happening in the regenerative space, right?
Oh, the
So
stem
the
cell?
stem cells, the
Mm-hmm.
exosomes,
Yeah.
all of those, because again, think about what we're trying to do. We're trying to restore the tread on the tires.
Right.
Like, if you're a runner and you've been running for a long time, you're wearing out your joints.
Yeah.
So you might have to figure out a way to get access
Get
to some
back.
of these
Yeah.
regenerative
Yeah.
therapies that can help to restore the cartilage in your knees. Otherwise, I don't care. It actually doesn't matter, even if you're sleeping well and exercising and doing
Yeah.
all the things. There's a mechanistic issue at hand that has to be solved.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. You know what? I think that stem cell are really going to be the game changer once they are well
Yeah.
controlled. Because today the problem we have with stem cell is like there is so many facilities that are offering stem cell therapy that are not controlled. That there is no guideline. They're not following the right guidelines. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe some sort of centralized guideline will help our society to move forward in the right direction on that.
Yeah, I think what's happening also in the stem cell world is you have all different ones.
Yeah,
And we're in the infancy of understanding, what does a V cell do? What does a
yeah,
Muse cell do? What does
yeah.
adipose? What does an MSC do? How do we best use it? How do
Sure.
we prepare the terrain,
Yeah.
right, to receive the stem cell? And I had a regenerative injection into my knee last week. I was so grateful to be able to
Yeah.
access that. But I think that, but I do think, and think about it. This is a solution that is coming from nature.
Right.
It's coming from within, right?
Yeah.
And good news, guys, if you can't afford to go out and get a stem cell injection, you can go sit in a sauna, you can exercise, you can fast. Oh my God, it's free. You actually don't have to do anything. Like, there's all these different things you can do to stimulate your body's production of stem cells.
Love
You
it.
can go and invest in some stem regen, a supplement that helps your body to release its own stem cells more efficiently. Like, there's so many different things that, like we both said before, we're at such an exciting time. There's so many
Mhm.
different ways to skin this cat, which is a
Yeah.
horrible expression. There's so many different ways.
Yes.
I'm sorry. There's so many different ways to achieve these goals. That,
Sure.
you don't necessarily, I mean, look, having money helps, but there's also lots
Today,
of free
because it's
things.
I think money helps to live longer today, but as soon as all this technology are becoming mainstream, it's going to be more
Mhm.
accessible, like volume and things like that. Remember, when we were younger, the price of a cell phone was like not affordable at all.
Well, it's still not
Yeah.
affordable at all, but
Yeah,
now
well,
it's a supercomputer. So
that's it. Yeah, that's it. Tell me, what common myth about longevity would you like to debunk?
I had a good one for this.
Oh,
A common myth about longevity. Well, actually, it's what we were just saying. It's that you have to be rich,
oh,
right? I mean, look, being wealthy helps. There's
mm-hmm.
no doubt about it. But there's lots of 90-year-olds in the
Yeah,
world,
yeah, and even
and even
centenarians.
beyond,
Yeah,
who are not rich. But what they have is they have those other intangibles,
yeah,
right? They have resilience. They have community. They have connection to other people. And I mean, look, in our day and age, a centenarian is someone who evolved at a time that was a lot less toxic than our time, for sure. But there's a lot we can do right out of the gate to feel better and to live better longer. Whether you get to 120 or not is a different story, but having the things that you can control kind of together is going to give you a lot of runway. And I would say also, and I think that's the myth, but I would also say create a health account.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So set money aside for your health.
Oh,
right?
especially in America.
Look, before you go spend $10 on a latte somewhere, think about setting it aside. Like, you'd be shocked.
Yeah.
At how much money you can accumulate by not, like I said to my husband one day, I said, look, because he was like sitting there going, oh my God, another device or another this or another that. And I'm like, dude, I'm not buying Charles Louboutin shoes.
Yeah.
I'm not going shopping at Tiffany's for the latest shiny thing. My priority is getting access to these therapies or whatever. Like, I would rather spend money on this stuff than that stuff. So that's a decision that I make.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
So to whatever degree you're able, and of course there's people who are living hand to mouth, and right now it's not within their wheelhouse. But I promise you that if you do the best that you can with what you have, and you surround yourself with people who support you and who you love, and you do this living in gratitude and joy and the whole 9 yards, things get better.
I like that. I like the philosophy. It's pretty much what we.
And I know there's somebody listening to this who's like up to their eyeballs in alligators right now, like their health is crap or whatever. And look, not to dismiss at all. Yeah. We all go through tough times in our life, and in the end, it's our journey, maybe. But
it is, and it's difficult in the moment. It's not difficult on the long run. How many phases of our lives, and even of our weeks, past week, past months, past years, where we feel that enormous struggle and we're super stressed, and then it's gone, and you look back and you're just like, that was nothing. But in the moment, it's,
or maybe it was something, but you persevered, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you stronger. So I mean, sometimes you meet someone, you come across someone who's really, really ill, really struggling, and yet somehow they manage to be super grateful.
True. Yeah.
So,
well, those principles of the blue zone are pretty much what we are talking about today. Huh? In general, yeah. That's about it. The question I have for you, because
that's all you got?
Do you want more? I can't.
No, I'm good.
No, awesome, Nathalie. It was really a pleasure talking about all these things and these topics with you. And guys, you know what? Before we jumped into the show recording, we were talking about art. To finish and to conclude on that, do you think that art is the best biohack out there?
I think that doing the things you love, right? Surrounding yourself with whatever beauty means to you, right? Is it works of art? Is it music? Is it, like for the last couple of weeks, I've been listening to classical music again, which I grew up with classical music because I grew up with classical dance in my world. And I find, and I do believe that art and beauty, whatever that means to you, feeds you. And it is that thing that's going to help you to appreciate and be a stress relief, right? So for you, it's art. I mean, for me, it might be music. Of course, I love art, but it hasn't been my passion necessarily. But it could be flowers. It could be getting out in nature. It could be
writing,
whatever it could be poetry, right? But identifying and finding that thing that brings you peace and joy is always going to be the thing that you can go back to ground yourself.
So that's going to be your best advice for living longer.
Probably.
Love it. Thank you, Nathalie. It was a great. I got it. The last question. Thank you for being such a great person with joy and fulfillment of life and beauty and everything. Keep going, keep inspiring this world, and together let's keep changing.
Jane, thank you so much. It's such a
you.
pleasure as always, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Absolutely.
À bientôt.
À bientôt. And to finish, find out the links to find out about Nathalie on the caption here, and give her a follow on Instagram as well and on the website.
Thank you.